Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney.
And I'm MK.
And how are you?
I am good. I'm great. I don't have a personality right now, except for the Olympics. The Olympics are my entire personality.
Love that.
I posted on Facebook the other day and it said, please do not talk to me at all unless it is about how many countries are winning their first medals, what Snoop Dogg is doing, or Steve Neverosic. That's it. I don't care about literally anything else.
That's totally fair.
I really want the Snoop Dogg pin, but Dan won't let me get it.
Rude.
Yeah. It's a picture of Snoop Dogg blowing marijuana smoke into smoke rings, and the smoke rings are the Olympic rings. And I want it so fucking bad.
I think you can have it.
I think so too. I showed him, I was like, I can buy the PNG sticker of it for $3 on Etsy and then put it on everything.
Yeah. I love Snoop Dogg. I'm in.
Me too. Snoop Dogg and Martha's outfits for the equestrian event the other day. Ugh, I'm obsessed. I know what he's worn every day of the Olympics. Like, I'm obsessed.
I didn't even know how involved he was in the Olympics until I saw your post.
Yeah, Snoop Dogg is the Olympic mascot for the United States of America. I don't understand how this happened, but I'm very okay with it.
That's the perfect mascot.
Today, Thailand won their first medal for the Olympics for 2024. I panic watch the badminton match. I have been like obsessively watching every single thing. Like every day I check what events Thailand is in for that day. Dan and I like literally whenever we're not together, he will like call me to tell me which event is starting on TV. Like weird, it is a problem. I know more statistics about random people than like I ever would have thought possible. Like, for example, I can tell you right now that Sha'Carri Richardson, who is supposedly the fastest woman in the world, who has all these world records, did not win gold for her race because she lost to a woman from St. Lucia, who was St. Lucia's first ever Olympic medal of any kind ever.
Ooh.
Yeah. Amazing.
I did see that because my solitaire game has a section where you can bet on who's going to win the race of the day with like tickets they give you for winning things.
Yeah.
I'm not putting real money on this.
Good.
But I was like, and I voted the one you said, the American one that you had said.
Yeah.
And I saw that St. Lucia won, and I was like, that is not
Yeah.
any of the top 5 that I put my money on.
Nope. Nobody expected that at all.
So
Katie Ledecky won her 9th gold medal and is officially the most decorated U.S. Olympic woman ever.
Ooh, look at her.
Which also puts her as the 3rd most decorated Olympian of all time.
Ooh.
After
who are the first two?
Michael Phelps is number 1. And a Soviet gymnast from the 80s or the 60s, between the 60s and the 80s is number 2.
Okay.
But yeah.
I see you, Katie.
Unfortunately, Simone was supposed to tie Katie today, but she did not get gold in either of her events today. It was really upsetting.
That is
I did not watch it because I was watching Stargate. And then I texted Dan and I go, did you just watch gymnastics? He goes, yeah. It was nerve-wracking. And he was like telling me how everything went down. And I was like, that beam though, with crying faces. My 2 favorite people at the Olympics, no, everyone's my favorite person at the Olympics. I don't know. I'm a crazy person. I tried to buy Dan a t-shirt that had the Turkish silver medal shooter on it. This man, I don't know if you've seen pictures.
See him.
Oh my God. No gear, nothing. Just showed up in a t-shirt and shot in 1 second place.
So it turns out he has a partner that also wore the same thing. She wore like eye gear and stuff like a normal person. But I did not see that until like yesterday.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was like a team thing.
Yeah. But also she at least wore eye gear. And like everybody else has like eye gear and the ear protectors and hats and like, and he just was like, boom, done. And I tried to buy Dan a t-shirt that had a picture of him on it that said, did Turkey just send a hitman to the Olympics? And he told me not to buy it. But I did buy a t-shirt yesterday. If you were listening to last Thursday's episode, you know that I was talking about how I have an unnatural habit of buying things I really should not buy.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about the TikTok shop. This one I got off Etsy, not the TikTok shop. But same difference.
Same diff.
It is a t-shirt that as soon as it comes in, I'm going to wear it every time we record. Just kidding. But it has a picture of a pommel horse with glasses. And underneath it says, "My friend Steve."
Stop. You are way too much.
I am in love with Steve Medorosik, and not in a creepy, like I want to date him way, because like I'm also obsessed with his girlfriend and the fact that when he started
girlfriends.
Oh no, her name is Tess. They've been dating for 8 years. She was also a gymnast at Penn State. And as soon as he started getting all this fame and people started like freaking out about him online, she changed her handle on TikTok to Mrs. Pommelhorse.
Stop. I love it. They're too much. I love it.
Obsessed. He also officially said that bronze looks great, but gold would look better, and hashtagged 2028. So he is going to be trying to get into it in the next Olympics. And if you don't think that I'm going to try to figure out every fucking possible way to be in LA during the Olympics, it's fine. Man. I don't have a personality. It's just
okay. Olympics. You won't be planning a wedding that year, so you'll be able to spend money to go to the Olympics.
Unless I have children, but who knows?
Well, just don't do it in 2028. Do 27 or 29, like, or get pregnant halfway through 28, so it doesn't look like you're going to be pregnant during 28 until it's too late for you to not have bought the tickets.
Yeah, but like if I have a child in 26, that child will be 2 in 28, and then like 2-year-olds are fucking expensive.
They are, but who knows? Maybe you'll be millionaires.
Maybe.
Your husband can win another Grammy. Tony, what did he win?
It's a Grammy.
Win another Grammy, and then just go from there.
It'll be it'll be great.
Totally fine.
We'll win a podcast award or something.
Oh my God, we're gonna be. I am making us millionaires because I'm on TikTok.
That's true. We're gonna get monetized so fast.
It's like tomorrow. Don't even worry about
it. So that's how I'm doing. How are you?
Well, I'm okay. I'm sorry I'm eating through this episode, because if you did watch my TikTok earlier, you'll know that everything has gone wrong. And we're doing 4 episode recordings, and I spent an hour of that complaining about my computer. So I'm now eating mac and cheese to recover. Otherwise, I'm okay. One of my this is what I was going to talk about last episode, and then our last horror episode. I went down a rabbit hole like yesterday, day before, who knows, all my days are the same.
Yeah.
About Italian horror directors. And I don't know a lot about Italian horror.
And we've talked about this on the podcast, because there was somebody that was directing something, and we were like, I don't know anything about any foreign films except for French and Swedish.
Right. Yeah, like that's it. And so I went down this rabbit hole, and now I've created a new project for my brain. But
because your brain needed more projects.
Right. So I wrote down like who I'm gonna look into. There's like Argento. He did what's called like the Giallo films is what they're known for, and they're like Golden Gloves, and like they are based off of a what is the like whodunit graphic novels called? I think it starts with an M. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like the very classic. It doesn't really matter. I don't need to rabbit hole quite that far. Okay. My brain did, but you guys don't care that much. And then there's like Baba, who did Black Sunday, Black Sabbath, which I've heard of both of those, and they've had them on my list to watch. Didn't realize they were Italian.
Yeah.
Didn't realize they like helped create the like realm of Gothic horror. And Fulci and Diato, like they're all so crazy, and they really set up a lot of the genre that I didn't realize. I mean, obviously very specific to like the Gothic horror side or some of the darker elements. They aren't, the French we know. We know the Americans, what they've done. We know what the like Mexicans have
Yeah.
done. Like all of them have done very specific things. But I'm like really on this train for getting into Italian horror. And my brain wants me to like watch a movie from a different like country's horror director each month so I can like really get a good feel of what my initially my brain was like, you should just watch a different movie every day each month from a different director. And that was like, that's crazy. So
Yeah, you don't.
I'm not gonna do that. But if I pick one country each month and watch one film from one director of horror from that country in that
Yes,
month, that feels
that
reasonable
that you can do. Yeah.
and not crazy. So that's what I think I'm gonna be about. I'm gonna try and expand my horizons. Oh, also, of course, the like Asian culture of horror. We know that pretty well. But
South,
Italian,
yeah, Japanese and South Korean horror are both wild.
wild and excellent, and really the basis for most modern American horror. But that's another story. Um, so, but yeah, so Guillermo del Toro, he was excuse me. She's just like throwing her head around. I don't even know what
Oh,
she's doing. Um, Guillermo del Toro was influenced by Bava. He was like the godfather of gothic horror. Like it's wild. No idea.
yeah.
So I'm
Wow.
yeah, I'm very interested in this now. And next week I may have forgotten I talked about this, but hopefully I don't forget and I actually do watch some,
All right.
other horror countries that I'm less familiar with. Um, but yeah, so while I am casually spiraling and creating new projects for my brain that it doesn't need, can you give me a little spiritual guidance? Just kind of like
I
wrap me in a little
I
bit.
can try. I can try.
Okay.
We are on a beginning week,
Hmm.
so we'll see. But secrets can't hide in science. Medicine has a way of exposing the lies. Within the walls of the hospital, the truth is stripped bare. How we keep our secrets outside the hospital, well, that's a little different. One thing is certain. Whatever it is we're trying to hide, we're never ready for that moment when the truth gets naked. That's the problem with secrets. Like misery, they love company. They pile up and up until they take over everything, until you don't have room for anything else, until you're so full of secrets you feel like you're going to burst.
That is so true. I'm so sorry. I took a big bite of mac and cheese when
It's
I didn't
okay.
need
It
to.
it, it is true, but also I didn't realize how much I feel like it relates to this Hannibal episode until I was halfway through reading it, and then I was like, "Oh my God."
It is spot on. Spot frickin' on. Whew. Yeah. So why don't we get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we are indeed talking about Hannibal season 2, episode 4. I think it is pronounced Takia Weiss is Takiawase. I'm not sure
Uh,
how the second half of the word should go.
um, all vowels in Japanese are pronounced. They because everything that they don't have like separate letters, they have sounds. So it would be can you spell that for me one more time?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Takiawase.
Takiowase? Takiowase would be how I believe that would be pronounced.
Takiawase. I was a lot
Takiowase.
closer than I anticipated being,
Yeah.
which is nice. So that's good. That's good. Yeah. So it means vegetables served with meat, fish, or tofu. Um, I don't know if that context helps you any. I don't know if you know
It
the vegetable sense
no, no, no,
or like
no.
served with, like I don't know. Anyway, so that is the course we are currently at of this season, which vegetables are usually much more mild than this, to be clear.
To be clear.
Um, so it aired March 21st of 2014. It was rated 9.2 out of 10, which is it's tied for the highest rating we've had so far. The only other episode that has been rated this highly is the finale of last season.
Yeah.
So
Honestly, this might be better than the finale of last season.
I think it's better.
I
I
think
think
so.
people were scared to vote higher.
I mean, I do think 9.2, it's hard to go higher than that because you're like, wait, you're telling
Hmm.
me there was nothing wrong with this episode, but like
Right.
this, yeah.
But also maybe that's what we're saying.
Uh,
So not yet, not yet. Um, and so that's that. The number one song is still Happy by Pharrell.
yep.
The number one movie is Divergent, which I will never forget when these books became popular because so this was when I was hanging out with my cousin a lot and he would tell me about all these books and I, read like a mad person. And so I just read whatever he handed me basically. And he was like, you have to read these series. It's great. So of course I read it in like in a week, read all the books that
Yeah.
had been released and didn't realize that it was going to like blow up. And then it did. And so just A plus, A plus. Movie's okay. Books are great though. Um, the number one book is Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. And I say this every time. I'd love to read a Brandon Sanderson book and make it through more than the first chapter, but I haven't done that yet. So we'll see. But good for him. I know he's very popular. I know he's doing well.
Um,
Um,
sorry.
yes, ma'am.
A tornado just touched down in downtown Buffalo.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Are people you know okay?
I think so. Oh, no injuries have been reported. That's good. Um, I just got
Solid.
nervous because like Dan hasn't answered any of my texts
Mm.
in like 6 hours, and then I just found out that there was a
Do
what?
you have tornadoes? Is that a thing that Buffalo
No,
gets? Okay,
no.
that makes sense. That's what I
Yeah.
was thinking.
Uh-huh.
Um, cool. I'm sorry
No.
the world is ending.
Yeah, no, he's at home. He's fine. His phone's on.
Good, good, good,
Um,
good.
Sorry. I was like listening to you, and then my friend posted on Facebook because I was, checking what I was doing in March
Hmm.
21st of 2014. And so but then I like closed my Facebook because fun fact, same as last week, the only posts on my wall are from my ex's sister complaining to me about whatever he was doing on vacation. So
Sure,
sure.
sure, of course.
But the thing was like, what the fuck? Buffalo just got hit with a tornado. I was like,
That is just like the wildest thing. I don't understand. It caught me off guard when you said that because I recently saw something about a tornado down here. It hadn't hit, but there was like supposed to be, and we have like I
right.
think
Well,
we have a
because
tropical storm coming through
yeah,
or
so it
something.
Tropical Storm Debbie yesterday got upgraded. It's
Yeah.
now Hurricane Debbie. Hurricane Debbie
Oh,
officially
good.
made landfall yesterday. There were tornadoes in Tampa and Naples all week because of it. So my brother has
Hmm.
been worried about tornadoes. There was a tornado warning in his area yesterday. My uncle saw a tornado 2 days ago. I've been thinking about tornadoes all week. I didn't think they were going to be
Your tornadoes.
here.
Right. Yeah. Um, yeah, I wasn't expecting that when you said that because I didn't think you got tornadoes.
We don't really. Yeah, no, that
Hmm.
was super wild.
Hmm. Cool. I'm glad everyone's okay.
Yep.
Hope that stops. Um, but glad everyone's okay otherwise. Um, so on this day, not the one we are currently living in, but March 21st, 2014, um, weird, weird facts for you as I do.
Great. Great.
Um, the Turkish leader at the time, apparently, like I was just reading a headline, it just says Turkish leader declared war on Twitter. And I was like, I don't know what's happened. And I didn't read any more into it because I was happy to stay with that thought. Because what a choice to make. It feels like you probably have bigger things to create war with. But let's do it with Twitter. Um,
Yeah.
there was in China, an entire kindergarten lunch was poisoned. Um, yep, yep. Had to go dark before we get darker.
Yep.
Actually not darker, that's probably the darkest it gets, but that just had to like bring us into the right mindset.
Yeah.
Um, I will say though, Fred Phelps passed away today, who was the founder of the Westboro Baptist Church.
Oh, I know who Brett Phelps was.
Yep,
Although,
yep.
can I tell
So,
you, just casually, in terms of we talk all the time about how my fiance might not be a human being.
mhm.
Um, we were talking about something about politics the one day, and I said something about Fred Phelps, And he was like, I don't know who that is. And I was like, well, he founded the Westboro Baptist Church. And he said, I don't know what that is.
Definitely, definitely, a serial killer.
So then I explained it to him, and he was like, oh, I guess I've heard of that.
I guess I've heard of that. Dan, bless it. Um,
Yeah, so
so
in case any of you were thinking that my fiance wasn't the strangest person alive, don't worry, still is.
he still is. Good, good. Glad we're still in that scene with him. So our director is David Simmel. We have not seen him
I was gonna say, I
on.
don't know that name.
We do, but
Oh,
not from Hannibal.
oh, okay.
He did direct 3 episodes of American Horror Story. He directed Halloween Part 1 and Part 2 from season 1. And then he also directed Origins of Monstrosity from season 2, which is where we had the killer child who came to Briarcliff.
Oh, yeah, I didn't like that episode very much.
Yeah, I remember. But yeah, so that's what we've seen him direct so far. Writer is Scott Nemurfro and the editor Stephen Phillipson. So both returning, both are our pals. So this week for our guesty star, we are going to talk about Amanda Plummer, and she plays Catherine Pims. Now, she's known for things that you may know her from, but they're all over the place.
Uh-huh.
So she is known for Pulp Fiction,
Mhm.
where she plays Honey Baby.
Mhm.
She is known for a film called Abigail Hart that I've never heard of in my life. She is known for The Fisher King, which vaguely sounds familiar, but I don't think
Yeah.
I know it.
Oh, it's a big one.
And she's also known for Star Trek Picard, so new
Yeah.
Star Trek.
Yes. Listen, watching this episode with Dan, and I go, I know that lady. She plays a fucking crazy person in everything. And he goes, okay. I go, no, but like I'm thinking of a specific crazy person. And then I go, oh, she plays Vatic. And he said, like new Vatic? He was like Vatic. Like I said, like Picard Vatic. And he goes, oh, okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I was like,
Mm. Um,
yeah.
I did not know I knew her. However, she did also voice Clotho, Clotho, Clotho in Hercules
Clotho,
and
yeah, yeah. She's one
in
of
the
the
video game.
muses, or in the video game. Yeah, she's one of the
In both.
muses. Yes.
Hmm.
No, wait.
So,
Wait, in Hercules?
hmm the
Cloth
93 movie,
No, I
and
know, but I'm trying to think. Is Clotho one of the muses?
I don't think so. I think it's the dragon creature. Um, I meant to look that up before
No, no, no. You know
today.
who it is? You know who it is? I'm pretty sure it is the um oh,
She spins
it's
the
one of the
thread of
fates. It's
life.
one of the fates.
Hmm.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So yeah, she spins the thread of life. Yep. So that's her.
She
So we do know her.
also has a role in Ratchet.
Yeah, I couldn't list everything, but yes. So I didn't watch Ratchet, so
Hmm.
I'm scared to watch Ratchet.
I watched 2 episodes and I couldn't get farther than that.
Yeah. I don't know that it's gonna be too gory for me, even though everyone's like, I don't think it's gonna be. I'm not sure that's true. So I just haven't done it yet. Um, she is known for some other things because she is the daughter of Christopher Plummer and Tammy Grimes. Um, she is the and then she is a Tony winner, and they are both Tony winners.
Yeah.
And she is the only Tony winner whose parents are also both Tony winners. So Christopher won for Cyrano and Barrymore. Tammy won for Unsinkable Molly Brown and Private Lives, and then Amanda won for Agnes of God.
Mhm.
And just another little fun fact: her and her dad were both up for an Emmy the same year, different shows, different
Yeah.
situations, and she ended up bringing home the Emmy, but he did not. So, what an interesting time that is, Amanda Plummer. Okay, so we are now starting the episode, and a lot of our previously on is Jack and Bella, the trial, and Beverly. And that sums up what this episode is about. So,
Yeah.
if you weren't sure. So, we start in Will's mind palace, and he is making knots in the lures and attaching them to like go fishing. And he's teaching Abigail how to fish. So now Abigail has joined him in his mind palace. Um, and she's like, yeah. I know how to hunt. This is all the same thing. And he's like,
Yeah.
no, hunting is shooting, fishing is catching. And she's like, well, who are you trying to catch? And he's like, I'm trying to catch whoever caught you.
Yeah.
And then he tells the story that I had never heard of. He said that apparently people say that you should name the bait after someone that you care deeply about. And if they care deeply about you back, that you will be able to catch whatever you're trying to catch.
I'd never heard that before, but I like it a lot.
I love it. And I grew up fishing a lot. So like I feel like I should have heard it, but I've never heard it. And so I thought that was really nice. And he says that he named after Abigail. So
I just think that does that mean Jack names every one of his baits after Sam?
oh, I hope so. That'd be so nice. Um, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then we leave his brain and go into the real world where he is now in his cell. And Beverly is coming to see him in the cell. And you see this like beautiful visual. Beautiful is a word.
Yeah.
Visual of the mural of bodies in his eye.
Yeah.
So we're coming back to that. And she's like, we think there was a partner. We think like this is what happened. Like, what should we do? How should we go about it? And he's like, there was not a partner. That is not a thing that's happened here.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I don't know. And he's like, it's somebody else that can appreciate it. She's like, well, don't say Hannibal Lecter. And he's like, well, I mean, if the shoe fits. And he tells her there will be a clever detail on James Gray that will show who did this and like that they're not related. Or like that he wasn't like a partner, it was someone specific.
Yeah.
And Beverly says she's not going to look for Hannibal, but she will look for clever details.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, good for you. That is the right way to be.
It is. It's fair because if she were to go looking specifically for one person, same as everybody's just and same as everybody's just saying like, oh well, Will did this, but like yeah, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But if you're going into it with the idea that he had to have done it, you won't see anything that says that he didn't.
That says otherwise, right?
Oh yeah.
And so then we follow a bumblebee through a path in the forest, all the way to a hive that has been built into and on a person's body.
Can I tell you, the way that this visual was done, the way that it was done, I was like, what the fuck am I I said out loud, what the fuck am I watching? And then I figured out it was a person, and I just was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It was a choice that they've made. But yeah, so then we get the credits. So we get that happy little visual and jump right into the credits.
Huh?
What a time. What a time to be alive. So then we go back to the mental hospital, and Will has decided to befriend Chilton. And he tells him that he's like, I'm going to give you the same deal I gave Beverly. He's like, I know you've been listening in. I know you record all my conversations, so I know you know what I'm saying. Like, I'm giving you the same deal that everyone else has, basically. Yeah. And he's like, I know that the whole psych world is interested in me. Obviously, they all want to study my brain. And so I want to give you the exclusive opportunity to run tests, to question me. You'll be the only one. You'll be the first and you'll be the last. Like no one else is going to get this opportunity.
Right.
He says the only thing you have to do is not tell Hannibal and basically keep an open mind.
Will not just not tell Hannibal, not let Hannibal be my psychiatrist anymore.
Right. Also, yeah, because he's going to be exclusively with Chilton.
Mm-hmm.
So then we pop over to Bella, who's talking with Hannibal. And her hair is coming out. We can see that she's taken the chemo. She's talking about how she wished she hadn't done the chemo, and
Yeah.
like everything is terrible. She's always in pain. On a good day, she sleeps 15 to 18 hours. On a bad day, she just doesn't sleep from the pain. And we also learn that she's thinking about committing suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a common thing in cancer patients specifically, and that's another reason like physicians assisted suicide is so heavily debated.
Yeah.
But this is not quite the way to do it.
No.
So so then she starts asking Hannibal about death, and she's like, what do you think about death? How does it go? And he says he finds death comforting. He's like, because I always know like that's there, basically there for me. So like anything that's not after death is an
Which
opportunity.
there's there's two ways to look at that positively,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's other. So like I think
There's
on the
other.
one and I think on the one hand, like that's a very if you're looking at it from a religious or spiritual point of view, that's a very thing because like we basically like if you follow a religious belief that believes in an afterlife, there is the idea that death is the next chapter. Death is the door to what lies beyond, and particularly in Christianity, it's to a better life.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Also, on the one hand, in terms of stability, death is the one thing that can't be debated. You will die.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you feel unstable, you feel like life is confusing and you never know what's next. Death is the only thing that isn't a question mark, which is a little scary, but in terms of like an anchor, it exists, right? But let's go back to that little scary. What the fuck is wrong with your brain that you're like, you know what? I might not have a good job. I might not have food. I might not know what's coming next. I might not know if my boyfriend likes me, but at least I'm going to die one day.
At least I have death. Yeah, that is not how my brain works. My brain
No.
goes way too far in the other direction of, oh my God, I'm gonna die every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't get it. That's the psychopathic tendencies, I guess. So good times. Um, yeah, so they talk about that for a minute, and then we pop over to Jack and the team who are in the field. Um, and we learn that this body has been here for 2 weeks. So it's decomposed, like they've built this hive inside of it, which usually does not take only 2 weeks, especially like carve out space and stuff. So
Yeah.
we know it was purposely created,
Yeah.
which is comforting. Um, so yeah. So then we go to Beverly and Hannibal, and they are talking about the mural guy. Because of course they are. And she starts telling him about Will's deal for her to keep looking for what happened, like past his evidence, and he will help her solve crimes. And I was like,
Well, because she says something, and Hannibal goes, every time you talk lately, I hear will come out of your mouth.
yeah,
And she's like, well, I can't, like, if you're going to see it, I can't pretend it's not happening. Like,
right. And she's like, yeah, for sure, that's what's happening. And so she tells him, and I was like, oh, she's for sure gonna die. Like
oh,
this
I was
this line was the moment that I was like, no question.
Well, I mean, I had no question beforehand, but then she
Right.
said that, and I was like, well, it's going to happen sooner than I thought.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, but then she does try to backtrack by saying that Will's not blaming Hannibal anymore, which doesn't sound as convincing as she thinks it does. And Hannibal also knows that. He's like, well, at least he's telling me that. Like, he's not saying that to me. Um, but he knows that Will's still blaming him.
Yeah.
Um, and speaking of, we pop over to Chilton and Will, and they are getting ready for their first session. And Will is going to be taking truth serum. to get himself to make sure he's telling the truth because Chilton doesn't want to be manipulated by him, which is in general fair. And I would not question it so much if it was anyone but Chilton.
Yes, but I also, it's interesting because I don't think Chilton is doing it so much from a Will manipulating him perspective, and almost from a Will manipulating himself perspective. Because the whole
Yeah.
thing is that Will is claiming to have no memory of this. So
Right.
if he did do it but has no memory of it, then we need to figure out like what happened. If he didn't do it, like so I agree. It's
Mm-hmm.
shady and it's unethical and it's Chilton, so there's probably malice behind it, but also with everything with what we do know is quote unquote wrong with Will and his intelligence level, he would be the first person to fake a
Yeah.
diagnosis. So this is the only way to make sure that whatever he's saying is not touched by whatever way he wants this to turn out.
Right. And also, like, Will does start talking about memory loss as like an issue. And he's like, have you ever studied any of this or anything too? It's like something, we've tried to work on because I think that there's a lot of that. I mean, he knows that there's a lot of lost time, but he
Yes.
thinks it's more than just him being sick and losing time, which
Yes.
obviously, but so they do talk about that a little bit too. And then this visual of the truth serum going into him and his reaction is the most kitschy and weird visual we've seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why this is the way they chose to do that, but I
Yeah.
didn't like it. It felt
Yeah.
like I was watching like Dracula, not like I was watching Hannibal.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
the weird thing was then it happens again later with a different drug. Like it's just a
yeah,
weird thing that they did multiple times in this episode, not all related to each other either.
not all related and not like I guess we've seen other drugs, I feel like, but like also it's sorry, Aurora just came in here. I know she need anything. But it was unnecessary the way they did it because everything else
Yeah.
has been so like we've had our weird visual effects like we had on the ear last week, like we had on the bees this week. Like we have very
Yeah.
creative visual effects. But this just felt kitschy and it felt a little bit like throwing in the towel on something that we already know we can do
Yeah.
better?
Yeah.
Um, so I didn't love it. It was one of my least favorite scenes we've had visually. Um, but we have Will sweating, and then he starts picturing the serum going into his veins, and it looks like there's a touch of blood in it. And it's whether it is or it's the way that they've done it. I did back
No,
this up a few times.
no. That's very normal.
Okay,
Yeah, when you have an injection like that, usually you're not watching injections go into your arm because you're like in a hospital or whatever.
because you're
But
not watching the needle in your arm, so you don't have a
right, because
panic
you're
attack.
exactly.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
when the contact first happens, it's not it is much more pronounced and like focused on in this visual, obviously. But like when the needle enters and the pressure changes of the suction changing of the medicine going in,
Yeah,
there's often a slight pullback.
interesting.
Like think about the way when you put a straw in, some of the water comes up
Hmm.
at the top of the straw, even if you like have the pressure in the straw. It's the same thing.
That makes sense. It didn't seem to have any relevance, so I thought I just wasn't seeing it correctly.
No.
I just
It's just what happens when you inject a needle
Mhm.
into something. There's that slight bit of pullback, but in order to kind of like, I guess, foreshadow the danger, they
Sure.
focused on it.
Sure, yeah. Um, yeah, so we have that, and then we see that Hannibal is pumping something into his veins. And it turns out that he is pumping him with sedatives, which is what's setting off this whole
Well,
shindig. And
but also Will says it's sedatives, but we don't know if that's what it is. Will says it's sedatives. Hannibal
Right.
told him it's sedatives. We don't know if that's what it is. And based on Will's reaction and Chilton's reaction, I don't think that that's what it was.
Yeah, because I think he's talking about like he says that because of what Hannibal says, but then he goes on to say that really whatever it is he's been putting into him is what's inducing the seizures.
Yes.
And so it is unlikely that it's sedatives. But we don't know more than that yet. And he
Right.
starts remembering. So this truth serum did work, at least for his memories, whether he's going to tell Chilton or not. Because he starts remembering the clock and he starts seeing what the clock actually looked like that he drew. And he starts seeing Hannibal's face being askew. And he is like, he comes out of it and he starts telling him, he tells him, he's the filling him with sedatives and stuff. And he just says it's a radically unorthodox form of therapy. I was like, what an understatement, Chilton.
Correct.
Oh my God. Out of all the things you've done, you're just like, yeah, super unorthodox. Like we already know. We already know he's unorthodox. And oh my gosh, it's just
But I
what a
think
time.
it's I almost genuinely believed the shock. Like Chilton was like, I knew he like was okay with unorthodox treatment, but that's like a lot.
Which like yes, but also Chilton was like psychic driving, which feels very similar. Like, I mean, I guess medicine versus not medicine, but like
But
I
also
don't know.
to what
Or
ends?
maybe
But
yeah, I was
also
gonna
it's also to what ends? Like Chilton was doing medical like psychic driving, um,
mhm.
partially for his own glory, but also partially if everybody believed the Ripper was in jail, people would panic less.
Yeah. And also like it's a sense of I don't know that he knew how far Hannibal would go until this point, even though they'd already
Yes.
like he talked to him about it, but he couldn't be certain until he started hearing like
Yeah, I do think it
this
was a matter
specifically.
of the how deep is too deep.
Exactly. So then we do jump right over to our friends Chilton and Hannibal, and God bless. He tells Hannibal that he was like Hannibal shows up for his appointment with Will is what happens. And Chilton's like, "Oh, you didn't get my memo? You're not working together anymore. This is
Right.
now my patient. You don't get any say in this. Um, and this is how we're gonna do this." And then he starts telling him that he induced Will with truth serum and that he knows more about Hannibal than Hannibal thinks he does. And he's like trying to basically peacock in front of this guy. And I was like, he is such a moron. Like he is now
That
also on the chopping block.
yes, I was so mad at that scene because I was like, you everyone keeps not trusting that Hannibal's the one who's dangerous. They keep telling him shit
Right.
that he Will literally said, please don't tell Hannibal. This is worse than you think. And he said, cool, let me tell Hannibal.
Let me immediately tell Hannibal. Yeah. Like, and it's because overall Chilton thinks that he's stronger than Hannibal or like knows more than Hannibal, smarter. And
He's
like,
his
it's just not
cockiness
true,
is literally gonna get so many people killed.
including himself
Yeah.
sooner rather than later. Because again, it's Hannibal being threatened when it comes to Will. So here we are. So yeah, I just put this guy as a moron.
Yeah.
Um, so then we pop over to Jack and Bella. And Bella is trying weed to help like, lower the pain level she's having with her cancer.
Yeah.
And then Jack starts smoking. He's breaking the rules because he's just throwing all kinds of caution to the wind.
Right.
Um, and then she also tells him that she's added a DNR to her medical chart, which, if for those of you who do not know what that means, it means do not resuscitate. So if she were to start dying, or if she were to like die, you have to just kind of like obviously if she's like in the process of dying, you can
Yeah, like
stop it.
if she's like mid coding, they like
Yeah,
can try to like
but once she's gone flat, you can't try to bring her back. It's just that's the end. Um, and so obviously Jack is pretty upset about that. Um, and then he's telling her there's a new study about magnetic hypothermia, which I meant to look up and I sure didn't do that.
don't even remember
But
him saying that. So
yeah, and I just put poor Jack and Bella. And then I thought about it, and this is me derailing a little bit.
okay.
I wish this storyline wasn't a storyline in this show. Like, I think it's a beautiful storyline. It is
Yes.
well written. It is well done. It is unnecessary. Like,
Correct.
I don't understand.
I also don't like that every time I actually get Dan to sit down and watch the show with me, they have a Jack and Bella storyline because like it makes us both incredibly depressed and like
Yeah.
I cry and then I like hold his hand and I'm like, I promise I won't do that to you. It's stupid. Anyway,
Right.
but also I guess it's supposed to like humanize Jack or like explain Jack and Hannibal's relationship or like
Yeah.
whatever, but I don't care.
But I think we already get that with so many other
Yeah.
things because you see Jack and you already see Jack trusting Hannibal. So this whole ending scene with Hannibal, unnecessary. He already
Yeah.
trusted him before.
Yeah.
You see his humanity with the way he flip-flops back and forth with Will. You see his humanity with how he felt at losing Miriam. We don't need Bella for that. And I love this actress.
Yes.
I'm always happy to see her in a show. I wish the storyline didn't exist. And maybe, I mean, it's obviously not over after this episode. So maybe
Right.
something else will happen that will change my mind. But this is what, the third episode with Bella, and I just felt like it should not have existed.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So that to say, we go back to Jack and Zeller and Price. And they're discussing the hive guy. And Price starts talking about how it could be a religious thing because honey is like an elixir and then bees are like a symbol. And honestly, it is all really far off the deep end and also not relevant.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing where like if I had free time or somebody said something to me about that completely unrelated, I would absolutely do an unnecessary deep dive into the concept, but it didn't feel like it belonged here.
It didn't. And then we do learn, which is relevant and important, that this man was lobotomized.
Which I guess makes sense because how else were they putting the beehive in his head? But
it does, but that wasn't my first thought. However, it is the one that makes sense. So
yeah,
I get it. And so then we go to a house we've never been in, and there's an old man laying on a table getting acupuncture, and he keeps saying how he can't feel anything. Apparently, he's been in pain all of his life. And then she lobotomizes him. And this is another scene, much like when we see the bailiff's face getting cut open, that felt a little gratuitous. It lasted too long.
It lasted so long. Like literally, I was like, oh my God, they're gonna show it. And then I was like watching it like this, and Dan was like, no, it's still there. No, it's still there. And it was
I looked away
long.
4 different times because I could every time I look back,
and
it was
like
still
to
happening.
be fair, they didn't show
Mhm.
like they didn't actually show the but
they didn't have to.
For an unrelevant like this crime very, very little impacts the plot.
Overall storyline.
The overall story. It's one of the weaker crimes that they've had.
Yeah.
Partially because of the way it's admitted to and everything, and partially because like neither Jack nor Hannibal, or neither Will nor Hannibal are even really involved in this. All it is the tool for Beverly to find the missing piece.
Yeah.
And even that is like
pretty kind of weak.
Mm-hmm. So for them to spend so much time on a graphic scene of a story that didn't matter, I was not happy about it.
Yeah.
The only good thing about it is that Amanda Plummer got to act like a fucking crazy person with a close-up on her face being a crazy person. Like that was the whole point.
Absolutely. I mean, and she does it well. So there we go. So we do go back to the field, and there's this child walking up behind this man who is, we now know, the man that was on the table, and he turns around and his eyes are just missing. Just not there. So of course she screams. And we see him, so then we go to the hospital with him, or the lab, I don't really know. They're checking up on him.
They were in the lab, which was very confusing to me because like he wasn't dead. And I understand that he was like basically a carrot, like he was dead, kind of. He wasn't going to have much life after that, but he wasn't dead. Why was he in the lab? Why didn't doctors have him?
I don't know. It was very strange, but they're analyzing him and they start talking about how like this is the epitome of the living dead. Like this is what you always would expect.
Yeah.
And they start looking through everything and they find the bee stings, and they find that the bee stings are hiding the needle marks. And of course, that is our impetus to move forward. And so Beverly goes back to James Gray and is looking under the stitches to see if they're hiding something. And it turns out the stitches are hiding other stitches.
Sutures.
Yes, which is I don't have too many notebooks. Too many notebooks in front of me. And she goes and looks through, and it turns out the man's kidney is gone. So we all know what has happened here.
Yeah.
And so we go back to Will's cell, and he's again having another memory. He's remembering being in Hannibal's house with Dr. Gideon and how Hannibal had convinced him that no one was there, but he now sees that Gideon was obviously there. And he sees Hannibal admit to Gideon that he's the Ripper.
Yes.
Which is the first time that Will has actually seen like actual proof.
Yeah. And of course, it's his memory with the truth serum, so it's not admissible proof, but it is proof.
Right. But he knows now in his brain that he is on the right track.
Yeah.
And so then we go to Beverly and Will, and Will starts telling her that Hannibal is indeed the Chesapeake Ripper. He's like, he's done all this stuff. He's the Chesapeake Ripper. Like, and she's like, no, these are very different things. And he's like, no, they're not. Like, I know for a fact that he has not only committed the murders that we've been talking about, but he's also did the original murders.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, well, I'll figure it out. And he's like, absolutely not. He's like, he's toying with you. I can't believe you told him what I told you not to tell him.
Yeah.
And like, stay away from him because he will hurt you. Like, that is it. He's toying with her. And this is also, and she's like, well, what did he do with the kidney? And this is also the moment where Will officially realizes that Hannibal has been eating the victims and feeding them to others, which was very unfortunate for him.
I'm just glad
and
they
also-
didn't. I just glad they didn't show us him throwing up after he realized that his scrambled eggs had people sausage in them.
Yeah.
'Cause the
Also,
look
I don't
on
know why
his
I'm eating
face.
through this whole episode because this is not the one, but here we are.
But at least
Yeah, the
you're
look on
not
his
eating
face
anything
was-
meat, right?
I did have chicken earlier, but I had it in my mac and cheese, but it's gone now. I ate that while we were talking about the intro.
Oh,
This
good.
is Mandarin orange.
Oh, okay.
It's much chiller. But yeah, no, his face looked absolutely disgusted and distraught.
Yes.
And Beverly like doesn't even know half of it.
Yeah.
So then we go to our honeycomb lady. And the FBI has gone to her house to ask her about these dead guys because they were both clients of hers. And
because she's like a weird beekeeping hippie Reiki acupuncture like strange bird.
Right. So she's for sure got to be questioned.
Yeah.
So they go and they start asking about these people, and we learn that the hive man had a severe immunodeficiency. So he just like was never going to get better. He was only getting worse. Every time something almost seemed better, something else came up. Like there was no hope for him, basically.
Yeah.
And then she just admits that she killed him. Like, she is like, I took him out into the field. And he was like, so you killed him.
But she was like, I was just helping him not. She was like, he wanted to die. I was just helping him. She's like, weirdly thinks that she's doing like euthanasia.
Right.
But they didn't actually ask for it.
Mm-hmm. She really thinks she's playing God and whatnot in the right way. And then we also learn,
like, I can't make pain go away, but I can help them not feel it anymore. And I was like,
yeah, she says I can make it so it doesn't matter.
Ma'am.
Because we also learned our living dead man had crippling arthritis and had not gone a recent day in his life without pain.
Yeah.
And she was like, and it was just so nice to see him without pain. And I was like, man, you're so crazy. So then we pop back over to Hannibal and Bella. She walks into his office and she can barely walk. Like, she's like, I've just gotten done with like my sessions, like everything is this way. I just am trying to recover. And then shortly after, we learn that that's not really the reason she can't walk, but because she's just OD'd on morphine. And she tells him that she didn't want to die at home because she didn't want Jack to find her like this. He was like, well, you denied him his goodbye. And she was like, no, I denied him a sad goodbye, and I like a painful one for me. Like, this is easier for everyone. I can go in peace, and he doesn't have to worry about that like painful goodbye speech. And she just tells him to tell Jack, I love him very much. And he just watches her die and then flips a coin. The coin that she's given him as payment. And he goes and immediately pumps her up with a drug to make her non-OD. I forget the name of the drug. I'm sure it's the one that everyone knows.
What, Narcan?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I don't know
Probably
if I don't know if it is Narcan, but it is like similar, where it's like a reversal effect.
It's the same idea, regardless of like what it is. And he brings her back to life. So then we go to Sweet Beverly.
It is. It's naloxone. And Narcan is just like a brand of it, but naloxone is the name of the drug.
Right. So we go to Beverly, and per Will's instructions, she does try to go to Jack to talk to him, but learns he's been called away because of this incident with Bella. And she's like, so of course we go there, and she is pissed that Hannibal is in her room because she wanted to die. She's mad that he didn't let her. She slaps him.
Yeah.
Like, it's a whole situation. And Jack is just like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm glad you're not dead. And she is very much not glad about any of that.
No.
And then we go to Hannibal's house. And Beverly is doing her due diligence as she promised she would. However, not in the way she was instructed to. And
when I tell you that I spent the rest of this episode
like that,
complete, like, no, not even, because I was shaking. I was literally shaking. I was like, no, she can't. I was like basically pacing the room. I have never been so terrified.
Yeah. Which is a fair feeling because she does continue to search, and she goes to the freezer and finds the kidney, and she's like,
well, yeah, because she finds his secret second kitchen.
Yeah. And so she finds the kidney and she's like, bingo. And then there's blood on the floor.
No, she turns around and she turns too fast and hits a wine glass, and it falls. And as it falls, it starts to drip at an angle that tells you that there's something under the floor.
Yeah. I didn't know if that was wine or if that was blood that she spilled because it was in the secret kitchen. So I wasn't really sure.
And we've also talked about how we're still not 100% sure on him and his brewed wine
or bloody wine, right?
Yeah, whatever that is. But either way, it was a wine glass with liquid in it that then started to drip down the stairs that were under the floor.
And so she then, of course, as any stupid person would, goes down to the basement while she's alone. And we see her recognize something, and as she does, she flips the light on, and Hannibal is behind her. Very true American Psycho form.
Let me tell you, the visual of her aghast and staring at whatever it is she found with him silhouetted like fucking Norman Bates, because it was more Norman Bates than Patrick Bateman in my mind. So, yeah. But like behind the fucking sheet behind her.
Yeah. It was absolutely wild. And then, of course, Hannibal's behind her. He goes to attack her. She shoots at him. And the last thing we see is we hear gunshots and see them coming through the ceiling. And that's the end of the episode. So.
Now, literally a week ago in mine and Courtney's time, I don't remember if it is 2 or 3 weeks ago in viewer time, I went on a 20-minute tirade about how Beverly was not going to make it out of this season alive. Now, Dan has watched all of Hannibal. Dan knows what's going to happen. I told him my Beverly theories after we watched episode 2. And then when I was sitting with him yesterday or the night before, Saturday, watching this episode. I had just finished Stargate, which, if you listen to last Sunday's episode, was also terribly depressing. And then I
Mhm.
watched this, and I just sat there and I looked at him and I started crying. And he said, I'm so sorry. And I said, I didn't want to be right. And he said, I know. Do you want the lizard? And he took my lizard out and gave me my emotional
Oh,
support animal.
that
And
is very kind.
then I stared at the blank TV for a half hour while holding the lizard. And then said, all right, well, I'm going to bed now because I genuinely couldn't process anything. I have never
Yeah.
been so upset to be correct about something in my entire life.
Yeah. But also, like, what happens now? Is she dead? Is
I
she
mean,
tied up? Is she like this is the impetus for the end of Beverly? Sure, yeah, yeah, no
yeah,
question.
yeah.
But like,
No, she
is
doesn't come out
it
of this okay, but
right? But is it because she's now immediately dead? Everything's over with her, or is he now gonna hold her captive? Um, what did she find in the basement? Do you have a theory? Because I have a theory.
I have a theory. My theory is that it's Abigail's body.
My theory is that it's Abigail. I don't know if it's her body or if it's her being alive still. I was never fully convinced that he killed her because we haven't found a body. And why is he holding onto a body that's not fresh? Because usually he eats from the body. And so he would keep her alive for those. That's
Yeah,
my
but he, I
theory.
mean, he vacuum seals the organs anyway, so that's not. But I don't think she's alive because he told her he was going to have to kill her.
Well, I think he could also have made her like comatose. I don't know that she's living in the sense of like she's doing okay,
Oh
but
no,
I don't
she.
know that he's not keeping her alive to keep her organs fresh. Because also, like, why is he keeping her in the basement if he's not done with her
I
body,
mean, yeah, that's true. I don't know. My theory is Abigail just because it makes most sense, but I also it couldn't. I mean, because it would be the most quote unquote storytelling way to do
Mm-hmm.
it. But I don't think it could just be a body.
It could just be a body. It could just be his plans, although I don't think he's keeping his plans for real in his basement just in case somebody does come in.
Oh yeah, no.
Um,
I mean, but also it could be who knows what else. Because I mean, like, if so, obviously we know what he does with the organs,
mhm.
but like, if he is making blood wine, what is he doing with other things? Maybe he has skins somewhere. Maybe he has
Yeah,
like a drainage system.
sure, sure. I do think it's Abigail, but I do.
No, me too.
It
But
could be anything else. Yeah. So,
it could be worse than that. Like,
right.
it could be Abigail. It could be fucking worse than that.
It could be Abigail plus too. Like,
Right.
like it may be more than just her. Because I don't think he's killed Beverly yet, and I don't think he's going to kill her yet. I don't want you to tell me what you're thinking because that makes me really nervous, that sound you've just made.
It's Chilton.
Not yet.
I think so.
I don't think so. I think it's coming, but I don't think it's
I
yet.
don't know. I think that would be the freshest body he'd have to have down there.
Well, that is the freshest if he hasn't kept Abigail's body alive. But I don't think it's gonna be Chilton and Beverly in one episode. I think it's a
Oh,
lot.
I think they would fuck us like that.
But I could see it. I mean, I don't know. So, but I don't think she's gonna die yet. I don't think she's ever gonna be safe again. I don't think she's dead at this second. I think
Yeah.
next episode is gonna be something torturing maybe or harvesting of her body. Like
Oh
there's
my God.
something more to be done than just her to be dead in the basement. Um, but yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, but guess what? The next episode we get to watch it together.
I know. I know.
But that also means I have to wait 2 weeks to watch.
I know. I know it's a rough time. So what are your other thoughts from this episode? I don't know. Is there anything left we didn't talk about yet?
I
I feel
don't
like
think
we've like
so.
thoroughly discussed everything.
Everything. It's been like a five
Um,
hour podcast.
I know but this was such a crazy episode. And like to think it's what, episode four?
Yeah,
It's not even halfway.
it's not even halfway.
And I will tell you, this is not really a spoiler. I did happen to notice that the next few episodes all have the same rating. So
As this one?
as this one. So we'll see. Because I was trying to figure out if it was the highest rated of the season, if it was the highest rated ever.
Yeah.
And the next few have the exact same rating as this one. So we'll see how that goes and how we survive going forward with that.
Good.
Isn't that exciting? What a good time. Yeah. So I guess I have a trivia piece too.
Oh.
Um this not as intense as everything else. So sorry. But Will says, I'm either a psychopath, delusional, or right when he's talking to Chilton about Hannibal.
Yeah.
And that is meant to be like a comparison to C.S. Lewis's trilemma, where he says he's mad, bad, or God. And so it's correlation.
Yeah.
But that's my only trivia piece. Not that we needed a lot more than that. So who do you want to punch in the face?
Honestly, I'm gonna go with Hannibal. Only because I was wavering back and forth between Chilton and Hannibal because of Chilton telling Hannibal. But only because literally when Bella smacked Hannibal across the face, I literally looked at Dan and said, it's about fucking time somebody punched that man.
Truly, truly. That is absolutely fair.
Yeah.
Reasoning. So I was actually wavering between Chilton and Beverly, and I think I'm gonna go with Beverly because Chilton was not as out of character. Not that Beverly's out of character, but like Chilton, I expected him to do stupid stuff. Like it sucks and he's stupid, but Beverly, I just want to like punch her for not listening to Will because it's brought her to her own demise.
I mean,
so she's getting her punishment for what she's done.
To be fair, she tried to listen to Will. She tried to go to Jack,
but
Jack was with Hannibal, and she knew this was the last chance she was going to get to do anything.
Right, but this is also like, is it though? Like, what if you wait a couple of days? Like, it doesn't change the evidence. The evidence is still the same. You could go in there or like call up your buddy Z and have him go with you. Like, I don't know. Did you need to go into a serial killer psychopath's home alone? Was that the best option, you think? So that's why I love Beverly, but I do think she needs to be punched a little bit. Who is your MVP? Yeah, no, she would also be my MVP, but like both can be true.
Yes, both can be true. It's valid. Your reasons for punching her are not wrong, but also she's literally the only one who was like, maybe let's find out if there's any reason to believe Will.
No, absolutely. And I also would have picked her as MVP had you not. Just because you can be complicated in that way. But because you picked Beverly, I am going to pick Will. Because he is getting into his mind. He is finally getting his head straight. He knows what's going on. He's like really paying attention. He's hopefully things are going to go better one day. I don't have faith in that because we are watching Hannibal. It's not great. Like we can't expect a lot of goodness, but who's to say? Maybe one little bit will come out.
We'll have one moment.
Yeah, so I think that's all I have then. So on that note, if you have any thoughts, feelings, etc., you can email us, deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can find me at CECloud13.
And you can follow me everywhere at EMKAY _superstar. Sorry, there's more to that.
Excellent. I was like waiting and I was like, did you freeze?
Nope, I just forgot.
And if you need a little bit of a go ahead, sorry.
I just got distracted because one of my dad's construction sites got fucked up by the tornado. So
oh, good. Well, we have a beginning and an ending to our tornado story. So welcome. But if you need a little breather from these last 3 intense episodes that we've just had that are very emotionally draining and damaging please listen to next week's episode that we are about to record because it is a lot more mild than
Yeah,
what you have been hearing.
there's not really, it's going to be a very short episode too. It'll be a nice breather for you.
Yeah, so nice little break for you there in our chaos. All right, so in the meantime, we'll see you then.
Bye.